Doesn't seem like enough of us. There must be a couple still coming back. Maybe there's a group still chatting. It'd be nice for me as well. I know you all just got to
There's a
chat to
big storm brewing outside.
imagine that East Coast is going to get hammered this week. If you guys want to pop in your chat as well, where you are all based, that would be lovely. All right, now we've got more people coming back. Gubby land, beautiful, sunny coast.
Mm.
Okay, I'll kick off into the next section. Hope you all got to have a bit of a chat and meet each other. And again, keep that connection going throughout the online tutorial and workshop. We're all from all over. Wow. Okay, so what does this actually look like? So we've got the first module, we'll look at the acknowledgement of people and place. That's what we're doing this time. Contact and impact, looking more deeply at what does this actually mean on paper? What do the policies say? What does the government say? What are the rulings? What's the legislation? That one's really interesting because it kind of determines how things kind of go more broadly and systemically, which I think is really important that we get a good understanding of where Australia is at in terms of that legislation. Living in two worlds, that's a really important one too. And I think one that we can probably resonate in. All of us live in, come from different backgrounds, come from different spaces. And so it's how can we understand kind of that relationship between living in the West and being from a different culture, etc. Next one is building, sorry, my husband's doing some weird gardening. It's so loud out the window, so I've just shut it. The module 4, building relationships. I think this is a really important module, and for me, my preferred week of the course content. It's looking at how do we respectfully build connection with community? What does that practically look like? What are steps that you can take to ensure that you're doing that well and that you're feeling like you've got the tools and the techniques to do so appropriately? Module 5, teaching and learning Aboriginal education, and then module 6, looking at every classroom, every unit and every time. So that's looking more micro examples of, obviously we're all from so many different countries and places, as it's kind of the chat is showing. How can we tailor what we're learning, these techniques, this important information, how can we tailor that for ourselves and our own teaching style, our own experiences in the schools we will be at and that we're already at. Beautiful. Again, I'm going to open the floor. There's not too many of us, so I think it'd be nice to just have one or two different, yes. Sorry, yes, we will be looking, Louise, at the end of the module, we'll be looking at the assessments. In this one, so this is the cultural diversity map. I'm sure many of you have seen this map, but this is a really kind of first and foremost place to feel ourselves connecting to that Indigenous culture. Where's our location? But obviously looking at the diversity, and I think a really important thing to note in here is that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's going to be very different. The styles of communication from Gumbaynggirr are very different to Bundjalung, and how you have to ensure that you're respectful and understanding of those differences of cultures. So I think in understanding that and seeing this map first and foremost, it's that there is so much diversity. It's not, First Nations people must all think the same, or, it's the opposite of that. There's so much diversity in different culture. So I think that's something important to see. Pop in the chat if any of you had first impressions on when you saw this. Maybe this is the first time that you're seeing this. I'll kind of go along just because there's so much content to cover, but definitely, what does this map make you feel or think, or is it something that you've not even thought about before? So please pop down your thoughts in the chat, and then I'll move on quickly. Beautiful, thank you, Ben. Wow, all the land is cared for and has history, not just the colonized parts. Yes. And languages, dialects, absolutely. Now off the back of seeing that map, a huge part of what we're hoping and aiming to do in this unit is to give you a whole bunch of resources that you feel comfortable using, resources that you are sitting in a classroom with a student and you're like, oh, I don't know how to answer this, or I don't know a resource or a tool for this. I remember Jade taught me that in week 1 of whatever term. So that's what we're hoping to do in this. So this, I'll pop these in the chat, but just have a play on this if you can. So what this is, it's a compiled list, and please have a play of where you are based and any places that you're connected to. It's really beautiful because it connects to different language, different words, the nations around the country, and this is a really powerful tool that you can bring into your classrooms to be working with students. So it's based around language, place names, appropriate use of terminology, and something that's really easy to integrate into your classroom settings. So I would put a I don't know, bookmark on this one to keep referring back to, but this is a really beautiful tool that's been compiled and I think shows a lot of kind of what you guys have commented on. It shows that huge diversity and that although there has been loss of culture, that regaining as well of culture. So please refer back to this one. Even as a non-teacher, I love using this. I come back to it. It's relevant in my own work. So this is a really powerful tool for you to be using and keeping. Okay, what we're doing this class, we're just going to look over a couple of key concepts and terms that we'll be using and then come to look at the assignments at the end. We will have a break in 20 minutes or so in the middle, but we're just covering kind of that broad level overview of a couple of different terminologies that we can all get familiar with. So looking at this, practical reconciliation, this quote comes from, is again another incredible resource. It's an Indigenous and a non-Indigenous woman have paired up to kind of do some cultural competencies courses and understanding kind of both those different perspectives and where we're each coming from. So looking at Indigenous diversity, first and foremost, biological descent is paramount. Nor does it matter how far back you can trace your cultural heritage, whether it's 3, 5, or 500 generations. Given that Aboriginal people are intermarrying, these genes pool is quite colourful these days. It's not uncommon for Indigenous peoples with fair skin and blue eyes to identify as Indigenous. For Indigenous peoples, it's all about biological descent and socialisation, whether you are brought up as an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. This is something mainstream Australians often struggle to grapple with, but there is a popular saying amongst Indigenous peoples who jokingly remark, and I love this, a cup of tea is still a cup of tea no matter how much milk you add. So I think, and I really like this, it's been used so often. I first heard this probably 10 years ago in a school working with First Nations students. And when I kind of mentioned that self-understanding is the first place and important in this, it's what am I placing onto other people? Am I assuming someone else's identity, or am I letting them to tell me who they are? You know, that's the first and most important thing I would say in this course is don't assume someone's identity. Don't put your own understanding of what they should look like, what they could look like onto someone else. So again, this is really about self-identity, self-determination. It's up to Indigenous people to communicate whether they are or are not identifying as Indigenous. That's not for someone else to do for that person. So I think coming back to that, it's a really beautiful thing. A cup of tea is still a cup of tea no matter how much milk is added, and it's a really simple and easy way to explain. And so understanding kind of what Indigenous diversity and identity looks like. Yeah, the first thing in coming to this is please don't assume that you know what someone should look like or what community or background or history they should have. It's not up to you to decide what someone is or is not. It goes for any race, color, whatever. It's up to someone to self-identify. So just kind of putting that as a preface. And again, if you do want to kind of look more into this, and Carla are really beautiful places to start because it's coming from that very understanding non-Indigenous perspective as well as from an Indigenous perspective too. I'll let you watch this yourself because mine never plays properly. I do this all the time. The sound doesn't work. So I'll give you each 2 or 3 minutes just to watch this video on yourself, and then we'll come back together to chat about.
Sorry. Jade,
Yes, Helen.
there's a huge storm coming and I can't get into that thing online on the YouTube. Yeah.
That's
There's
all
a
good.
big storm coming and my internet's not good. So I can't go into that YouTube thing to watch it.
That's all good. If you're probably not the
Yeah.
only one in
I'm
that
trying
boat.
to. Sometimes I'm cutting in and out. Oh, I found it now. Okay, thank you.
All good. The session can also be recorded, and there is another recording of the tutorials as well. So that'll all be available, and the slides will go up to on the Blackboard, so you'll have access to all of the stuff if you miss anything. So that's for anyone else in that boat as well. I assume we've all watched Beautiful. Thank you. So just in explaining that a little bit more broadly, so country is a term used by First Nations peoples to refer to the lands, waters, and skies to which they are connected through their ancestral ties and family. For example, someone from a Gamilaroi person might say, I'm from Gamilaroi country, or my country is Gamilaroi. In this context, country and nation are sometimes used interchangeably. There are hundreds of countries and nations on this continent, each with their own culture, custom, language, and law. So as we saw from that map, the kind of Western and English terminology that we use for place-based names is not all-encompassing enough. You know, if you say that you're from Gumbaynggirr country or you're on Gumbaynggirr country, you are referring to the holistic approach of it. It's the mountains, it's the waters, it's the oceans. It's not just kind of Coffs Harbour, which you think of as that little central area, and kind of the more Western understanding of what a place could and should be. Country is an all-encompassing terminology and feeling of kind of, most importantly, that kind of connection to community and connection to place. It's not just where you are, it's who you are, it's who surrounds you, it's your identity as well. So I think it's I would imagine a lot of you are familiar with that kind of understanding of country. We see acknowledgements of country a lot now. We're seeing all of these kind of different ways that it's coming into more kind of Western terminology, but country is that really embedded, strong connection. It's that self-identity, and that's why someone will often say that they are from a certain country or place, rather than identifying themselves differently. Obviously, in that, it's acknowledging from the map too, there is so much diversity from that map. There's over 250 different language groups. So in this, it's kind of acknowledging that more and that place and history connection. Oh, there we go. As kind of was explained through that video, country is intrinsic to cultural identity. So this is another huge way in which it kind of is removed or separates itself from Western terminology. I was really lucky in my master's thesis working with one of the uncles here. We were talking about the concept of country and what it is, and he was like, I'm not anything without country, you know, the connection to place. As a non-Indigenous person, I was born and grew up in Coffs Harbour, but his connection to the ancestral lands that he's coming from is a very different notion. So it was really beautiful to get to hear him kind of explain that, what that was to him. He is country and country is him. And so as explained here, kind of in that, as I said, Auntie Munya's words from the Practical Reconciliation, without country, there is no soul or self. People's dreamings and stories are tied to country, and country plays a significant role in one's own spirituality. With dreaming comes responsibilities for looking after and caring for country. So in some Aboriginal cultures, country is regarded as family. And just like family, people feel sorry for country, cry for country, and sing for country. During the 2020 Australian bushfires, where people experienced devastation, the loss of country was mourned by Aboriginal people who cried for the damage done to country and our animal, plants, brothers and sisters. So again, I think this concept's coming through. You're all going to have your own different understandings of what it is, but it is a more holistic, all-encompassing understanding of a connection a First Nations person might have to the place they are from, or their family are from, in kind of that different way. Again, first of all, just because I'm sorry I'm doing this, it's just so glitchy when I play it on my own. Watch this one for 5 minutes, and then we might come and have a couple of little breakout rooms just to discuss your understanding and your notion of country. Again, give me a yell in the chat when you're done and I'll do that, but just go and watch this 5-minute video to explain country far better than I am. You can see a couple rooms still chatting away. Room 5 and 6 must be deep in some discussion. Did anyone else get in big storm? My brother's in Brisbane and said like internet's down, everything's shit's hit the fan. Anyone else getting it?
Not yet, but I think it's on the way.
No, but there's definitely like a fire near us on the Gold Coast. The sun was like orange today.
It's felt bushfire season, hasn't it? That really dry, hot wind. Yeah.
We had the smoke and the orange, like apocalyptic sunshine.
No, we need the rain, but then we need it to not be too intense either. It's like down this way, it's very dry.
Nice medium, please.
I know. If we could split the difference for both of us. Awesome. I love the little breakout groups. What we'll do is we'll look at dreaming, concept of dreaming, for 5 minutes or so, and then I'll let you go and have a bit of a break. So I'll take us to 7 and then, yeah, go and have a break, a bite to eat, scroll on your phone, whatever. So looking at the concept of dreaming and the dream time. So broad level, dream time refers to a period of creation. This is going to be very different for all different countries and nations across what is Australia. There are many reasons for ceremonies in Aboriginal society, and a key one is passing on knowledge. Ceremonies have a firm place in the spiritual beliefs and cultural practices of Aboriginal communities. The beliefs, stories, and lore of dreaming are individually owned and kept secure by specific members of this language group. Some individuals and families protect knowledge such as specific dances, while others protect knowledge such as body designs or symbolism. I think something important to say on this, and I've had kind of some personal experience in this space, is that understanding of what is, I guess, as a non-Indigenous perspective or someone not from that particular family group or connection group, it's what's for yours to know and what's for yours not to ask and know, and have respect that that's something not to be shared. So going through my thesis, there was a long I guess understanding process from both community and myself where kind of to draw that line. And so I think in understanding the dreaming, there's a lot of things that will not be general knowledge and should not be general knowledge, and that's to be respected and to be understood. But then what is already readily available, what is there and what the community is comfortable in sharing, definitely embrace that. Look at the history, and we'll look at some resources in a second. Look at the histories, look at the understanding of creation of the place that you were born as well, because it is, you know, the sacred sites and sites of significance are so often tied to the dream time and the dreaming, and so that kind of relates to us all. We're all living amongst these beautiful spaces as well, so definitely look at that in terms of a lot of respect. Courtney, question, hand up.
Yes. Hi. Sorry, I was going to type it, but I just thought this would be easier. Just around the terminology of dream time, is that still appropriate to say? Because I had heard like conflicting information of saying that like that wasn't the preferred term, like dream time or dream story, meaning that it's not true. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
Again, it's going to be very different for different communities. So this one's coming from the Practical Reconciliation, which is again, great website. I'll share it at the end as well. So they've used it still. Again, it's down to preference of community. I do know that most communities prefer specifics. So if you can get specific, you know, if you're in Coffs Harbour talking about Inde Morale and sites like that is more specific. But Dreamtime, from my understanding and kind of relying on this, the Evolve community who have put this all together, they still use it. But if you can get as specific as possible, that's definitely better, because it is a broad overarching term. But again, it's all, and what will come out in this whole course, it's all community consultation. If the community that you're working and living in prefers not to use it, then don't use it, and kind of find that alternative. But it's still used broadly by this group that we're using our getting our information and cultural knowledge from.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
How have I said this? No. So the dreaming has different meanings for different Aboriginal groups who each have their own Indigenous terms for spirituality. There we go. The dreaming is a common term used to describe Aboriginal religion or spiritualities more broadly. Thank you for the question, though. That's some I haven't heard that in particular, but definitely, yeah, there are probably countries and spaces and communities that prefer it not to be used. So yeah, definitely one to look into on the place that you are coming from or will be working. I've shared this in the link, a lot of videos, but it's way better how these do it more beautifully than anything I could ever say. There we go. Thank you, Callum, for sharing that too. I'll give you 5 minutes to go and watch this video. Watch the video, go and have a break. We'll come back. It's 6:58 now. We'll come back at 7:07. Oh, that's New South Wales time. 7 minutes past the hour. We'll come back and then we'll jump in a small group and discuss this, and then we'll dive into a little bit more and look into the assignments. So watch this video I've just shared in the link and then come back at 7 minutes past the hour. Good.
Now, Jabreen is part of our
Beautiful. We all coming back. If you're there, you can put on your camera. Would love you to do so. Beautiful. Awesome. Actually, why don't you break our rooms into after the next part as well? Discuss them both. All good, Courtney. It is dinner time. I'm hoping mine's been made for me at the moment. Awesome. We'll dive in and then I'll leave space as well at the end to have a bit more conversation more freely and questions as well. I think it's really important, especially for this topic, to have that. So we'll continue on and then have that space at the end too. My screen sharing still? Yes. Briefly, we'll just stay in the big group for this one. I think, as I said, it's really important, as kind of Courtney mentioned in that question, it's really important to have that knowledge of play space as well. So I'll share this as well, but definitely encourage you to find out if you know the place in which you're from, the stories of the places that you go every day. You know, you probably, most of us live by the coastline. I'm sure there's so much significance in those places too. So I would definitely encourage you to look at that, read the signs around you, connect with local land council and resources to make yourself feel more connected, not only to the Indigenous kind of view of the world, but for yourself to feel more connected to the places that you are every day. And it's just nice to have a little bit more connection and reverence around some of the normal things that you might be seeing each day. So moving on from dreaming, we'll look at kinship. So again, this is a concept that is very kind of different. Family relationships from the Western framework are very different to what relationships are across various different communities and cultures, and particularly First Nations countries as well. So many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people follow ancient kinship rules in their everyday relationship with others. They believe that these kinship rules are law left by sacred ancestors who created the living environment and its people. It is a structured web of connection. It is a system of names and social structures, hearing often different terminology for people. We've all heard of auntie and uncle. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there are blood relationships. So again, as I said initially, the most important thing that underpins all of the things they're speaking about, all of this module, is it's not on you to assume, it's for someone to tell you. So again, you know, you hear auntie and uncle, you hear someone talking about their cousin or their brother, and in your mind you might be like, but they're not cousins or brothers. It's not for us to assume what someone's relationship is to someone else. It's for us to kind of support that. It's not for us to determine what that is, because again, we, and particularly me, will be overlaying that kind of Western understanding of family relationships, which is not appropriate for us to be doing for First Nations community members. It's for them to be self-determining who is connected to them, who is not for us to kind of understand our own labels in terms of their connections. Again, this is something really importantly, and as we saw on that big map at the start, this is going to be so specific and nuanced to the particular communities that you're working in. So in my work up in Arnhem Land, completely different to the Gumbaynggirr community, the ways in which the relationships work there, the connections, the different types of relationships as well between men and women are very, that's something I definitely noticed. So again, it's not about us to be assuming what people should and shouldn't be and what those relationships are or are not. It's for us to respect that and understand that. So we're not imparting our own understanding of another culture. This is a particular example of a Western Australian kinship group. Again, this is something that may or may not be readily or openly available to you of the particular place that you will be teaching in the community that you're in. Definitely have a play around though, like the local land councils are the perfect place to go. They are kind of that the knowledge holder of what can and cannot be shared, and they work with community very closely and with council. So the local land council is definitely the place that when you want to look into this for your own interest and look into this for the own your own connection to your home, please refer to them, because again, this is very different wherever you are. But this is just a different example, not necessarily one we need to dive into too deeply, but it just shows the intricacies and different levels of connection between different members of a community. So again, skin groups, kinship groups are about belonging and identity. And often communities will have different skin names, and that determines and dictates potential relationships and marriage and things like that. So again, it's definitely very nuanced of the land that you're on, but again, just shows that different ways of community connection that I think is a really good place of understanding when you will be working with young Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander people. Callum, local land council, I mean, you can make an appointment, but a lot of it, a lot of them have resources on their website. They'll direct you to the people that will be most appropriate to talk to. Again, we come to it in week 5, I think, a lot about the particular community groups and who you should be engaging with. But land councils, I would go to their website and see what information they've got on there. We will have time for this. Yeah, let's do it. I'll give her a couple of minutes and then we'll jump into breakout rooms to discuss dreaming and kingship. But as I said, self-reflection and self-understanding is really important in this module to place yourself in someone else's shoes, to understand where your own biases and assumptions might be coming from, and reflect on that. So I'll give you 5 minutes or so just to place yourself within your own family network, within your own friendship, community network, and reflecting on how that might impact who you are, how you feel you belong. And then we'll come back after that and go into our different groups to just discuss that a bit more. Again, give me a yell, because I kind of am just going off people's faces. Give me a yell on the chat or put your hand up when you're finished, and I'll then start the breakout rooms. Beautiful, all coming back. What was for dinner, Courtney?
I love everyone's asking me about my dinner. I had satay chicken noodles that my partner made, so I felt very blessed.
Sounds all right, doesn't it? It's a weird time, this one. I appreciate you all jumping on. It's like most of you have probably had a long work day, and then I hate when it's getting dark and you're still on the computer. It's dinner time, so I appreciate you all rocking up. I know the numbers will dwindle, but we started strong. There's like 30 people in the room, I think. Well done. Good effort for Monday evening. All right, we'll move into another kind of place to make sure we understand. So we're looking at terra nullius, meaning kind of no one's land or land of no one. And just aware that this is obviously a very distressing topic, something that's perpetrated throughout time. And there are going to be images of some Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who have passed. So this is, we'll dive into terra nullius in a second, but again, really cool resource we're hoping to arm you with. So this is a map that Newcastle University has put together of all the known massacres that they've documented and got information on. So this was really cool for me. So I'm 28, and when I went to school, we learned about Red Rock, this one here, but it was not correct. It was not accurate. You know, we discussed it, but it was in a very different lens. So in only 10, 15 years, it's really incredible to see the ways in which the education has changed to kind of portray that correct history and more accurate history from that Indigenous perspective. So again, I'd encourage you not to traumatize, but to show kind of that accurate history. Just having to play around at this, and you can kind of see a bit of the timeline, go into the places that you know and you've connected with, just to see what has happened there and kind of unveil for yourself the real history and the connection to that place. So definitely this is a really good tool just to have a bit of a play around on. Again, incredible site. Like, some of these universities are doing really great work to share resources and making sure that we're all armed with the correct knowledge. So again, definitely something we want to do throughout this course is to make sure that you've got the different resources and tools to make you feel comfortable in this space. But again, one just to come back to and have a play around. Looking at concept of terra nullius, meaning land of no one. So obviously there was a lot of kind of, when that first colonization occurred and happened, there was ongoing battles. There was a lot of massacres of Indigenous people. Yes, sorry, I thought I'd shared it, but I didn't. Excellent, thanks, Helen. Yes, something good to look at. Moving into a little bit of kind of stolen generation and what that looks like. Prefacing this, this is a really important one to be very sensitive around. This is not something that happened years ago and there's no living relatives that have experienced this. This is something that was really close. A lot of Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander people have parents, grandparents who have gone through this. So it's, again, a really sensitive thing to be aware of, that some communities and family members are still living out and working out kind of the implications and working through the traumas of what had happened in that time. So very briefly, again, I'm sure most of you have known, but stolen generation was the forced removal of young Indigenous children from their families all across so many different areas. For me in particular, there is the Kinchler Boys Home in Kempsey, which has played a really big part in my own understanding and my own learning of kind of how close to home this event still is for a lot of community members. So again, there's it's again a really great resource, but the survivors of the Kinchler Boys Home, which was a boys' home, a place in which there was hundreds of boys ended up going through there, and they're reclaiming. So they want to turn the boys' home into a museum now to kind of respectfully, show the history and what the people there went through, and then to heal and kind of come together after that trauma of the communities and what they've been through. So Again, this is something I think being really sensitive around, knowing that it might be something that Coonabarra Girls Home, absolutely, that was one of the biggest ones. Being really sensitive around this is a topic and a space that a lot of the families that you will be working with, a lot of the students that you will be working with have direct family members that have been impacted by this. So it's not something really far in the distance that happened ages ago that we don't have to worry about. It's something that we still really have to be sensitive around. And in my current work, just kind of a bit anecdotally, in my current work, we often, because we work with government funds and things, we need confirmation of Aboriginality certificates, and that's a really hard process for some students to go through. They, don't have the birth certificate because they are disconnected from their communities and their family, but they are Indigenous and they've got Indigenous heritage and community connection. And that's, again, just a piece of paper, which again is another way of kind of that Western framework overlaying on this Indigenous perspective. But that's something that I'm seeing day to day in my work, is that a lot of students cannot access their confirmation of Aboriginality. They have to go through different routes because stolen generation is something that's very present within their own family and bloodline up until today. So again, just something to be aware of. I was going to mention this when we were speaking about country, but it's probably good, I forgot, and then it's a good time to do so here as well. Something that I was taught when working with young Indigenous people is, all Indigenous people, to not directly ask what their country is, be like, oh, and what's your country, or getting students to name, where they're from, because a lot of students, because of this disconnect, might not know. They know that they are Indigenous, they know they've got Indigenous heritage, but directly asking a student, what country are you from, can be putting them in an uncomfortable position because it's through no fault of their own. They have had that disconnection. So again, it's a huge part of that understanding and communication comes from not assuming. So it's, again, allowing people to share and part knowledge on as much as they want, not as much as you want to know. So again, just being respectful and aware of that, that some of these students that you're working with will still be going through. Flipping kind of from that, an extension of that, obviously coming from a background in which there's been forced removal, there's been a lot of, lack of understanding, not allowing people to speak their own culture, language, things like that. So transgenerational trauma is something that we do look at when working with Indigenous young people. So supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people includes listening, bearing witness, and caring about the stories from the stolen generation, and being mindful of the impact of the then and the now. There are incredible resources out there, books, movies, interviews, songs, poems, where you can find a lot of information on this. Again, this is going to be really specific to a specific family group, specific to a community as well. It was very different how this played out across Australia. So again, looking into the particulars of where you are from and who you will be working with, again, is important in this. Two great resource starting points, the Rabbit Proof Fence book and movie, and Archie Roach's song Took the Children Away, which tells his own story of being taken away from his family. Again, around this, and in terms of being sensitive, it's not for you to ask questions, it's for someone to share as much information as they're comfortable in knowing, because a lot of communities and families are still going through the early processes of that reconnection at the moment, and that's something to be aware of and sensitive of, that students might be kind of going through that with their families. Australia has one of the richest and oldest continuing cultures in the world. What an incredible and powerful realization. We do indeed have something to feel very proud of and to celebrate all of us together. As an ally, and for practical reconciliation to occur, you don't need to be a history buff. Practical reconciliation and cultural awareness is not about knowing the facts and figures of history. It's about moving forward together in a shared, proud and strong identity. Moving helps heal the hurt of the past, listening to people's stories and understanding their pain so that we can become more compassionate, loving beings. We have so much to learn from our Indigenous brothers and sisters. What I'm going to do is let you do this quiz in your own time. So we'll address the assessment next. I'll leave some space for questions, extra conversation, and then you can go and do this. So I'll put the link at the end, remind me so I don't forget, and do a little bit of a how much do you know quiz, just to see kind of your starting point. Is a good place to come back to at the end of the module to see in yourself how much you've learned and grown. So assessments, prefacing this, I'm not involved in the marking or the assessments. I have been in the past, so I'm familiar with them, but for this particular module or term, I'm not your go-to. If you have got questions, you can email them to me, but I'm not kind of that final source of knowledge on the assessments. Maddie will be doing all of that. So assessments will be looked at more in depth, and anything that changes or questions will be on Blackboard, and the workshops, the tutorials is not as much of the space for that. But again, we can definitely pass your questions on to me. I can share them with Maddie. Obviously, if there's kind of some common threads coming through, I'll know that and can make sure that she gets that too. So again, I'm not marking them, so I won't have feedback. I won't be involved in that process. But again, I can support you if you've got questions, comments, queries. So in 3 Mondays, you've got your assessment 1 with its 50%, 1,500 word assignment, which is okay. It's a little bit of time to dive into it. And again, this is the same assessment from last time. So I've taught in this class before. So assessment 1 is asking you to critically review a range of resources designed to teach Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander curriculum content. Provide full referencing details for the 3 of these resources that you select. These resources must be relevant to teaching Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories, culture, language, and should be culturally relevant to the land or the country that you are on. So coming back to this is where that community connection comes in. This is where the place-based understanding comes in a little bit more. So that's where you can obviously use the high level I guess understandings, but it is really diving in and looking at the resources available within your local community, your local school. In the next 2 modules, we'll be going a little bit more in depth at curriculum and resources you can use for that. But again, as we've seen, we're literally spread all over the East Coast. So Queensland curriculum is going to be different again to the New South Wales curriculum as well. But culturally relevant to the land or the country that you're on, or you might be from, or from where you'll be teaching. So what do you have to do in this? In this, we'll be selecting 3 culturally appropriate resources to use in a classroom lesson. For each of the 3 resources, we need a resource description. So talking about its formatting, what it is, what it looks like, how it can be used. Which age and stage this is for, so who's the intended students. Is it a high school history year 10 class? Is going to be very different to a year 2 art class. So again, specifying that, looking at the learning area that it's addressing, identifying which curriculum areas that this is targeting, and justifying. So this is the most critical part of the skills that you learn in university is why are you doing what you're doing? Why can you, how can the marker see that you know what you're doing is good, or what you're doing is not, or what you're using is not appropriate? So the justification is like the strongest part of this. The top 3 are kind of descriptors. The justification is where you get to really sink your teeth into showing your knowledge. So it's explaining how and why you would use this in your teaching, for its cultural appropriateness, for its resources, for its connection to Indigenous understandings as well. So that's where you really get to shine in that part of it. The second part as well is the evaluation of resources. So again, this shows a little bit more critical understanding rather than describing from you. So critically evaluating each resource based on the guidelines and protocols of the IATSIS guide and guide to evaluating and selecting educational resources. You should address the educational value of this. So the quality and the effectiveness of its resource, and the cultural appropriateness. So again, in the next couple of courses, modules will go through kind of cultural appropriateness, what that looks like, how you can ensure that you are culturally appropriate. And you need to evaluate whether the resource respects Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives, traditions, cultural sensitivities, and should be relevant again to the specifics of where you are. That's all on the assignment. Let me go back very quickly so I can copy and paste this into the chat. Beautiful. Does anyone have questions specific to the assignment first? And then we'll open it up to general chit chat.
So were some of those resources and links you put in, are they some of the examples of resources that we could be using?
Yeah, if you can justify why you're using that for a particular class, then it can be a resource. What we'll do in the next two modules as well, we dive in more specifically to the curriculum and like directly where you can go. But yeah, if you can justify whether it's a good resource, why it's a good resource, and what you would use it for, you can use them. Courtney, thank you.
Because we're having 3 different resources, would you recommend having it for 3 different like area groups or stages, or is it like more beneficial to stay within the 1 year group?
I think it's up to you. If you can, again, it depends on like each of you are going to be very different in what you're teaching and high school versus primary and things. Again, the most important thing is if you can justify. So if you're finding a resource that you probably can't justify as well, maybe choose one from another area then, you know. So again, it's completely up to you. I wouldn't think that it's better or worse to be doing the same area or different area, just making sure that you can address those questions. Your question.
Thank you.
If the syllabus dot points mentions a specific country and that country is not on the country we live on, can we go outside of country? Yes. Again, I think the specifics of understanding or of choosing somewhere that you are living or perhaps have lived on, it's that overarching understanding that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander country is so specific, it's so diverse. So what you're doing, what I'm doing here is going to be really different to Gubbi Gubbi land. So I think the reason for choosing something specifically is because it's so different. So I think if you are being consistent of the land in which you're on and maybe will be teaching on, that would be preferred. But again, you can go outside of that. Some of you might be, I don't know, in London studying this at the moment. Like obviously you can't put the country that you're on at the moment. So again, just being specific because of that understanding that community is very diverse. That answers the question. Kirsty.
Hi. Piggybacking off that, for example, if you were to look at something like totems, the resource in the way of the video may not be supportive of the land we're on here, but holistically, could you use a video on totems? Hang on, Buzz. And then link it to verbally what the totems are for your country.
And I think that's a really good point because a lot of resources aren't going to be available what you might want to speak about. So if you can have, you know, an understanding or a broad understanding from this country and then relate it to where you are, that's important as well. So I think just if you can get the point across and if you can do it well, that's the most important thing, because there are going to be limited resources to the country that you are on. It's just going to be better for your teaching practice if you're obviously throughout university engaging with content that you will be then working with. But yeah, I think it's not like a hard and fast, but definitely like a, if you can, it would be great.
Cheers. Thank you.
Good. No, thank you. Helen, and then plus one other. That's what it says, Helen.
Hi. Look, I'm going overseas on Wednesday, so throughout the entire course, I'll be overseas in Europe. So with this thing about the being consistent with the land that you'll be teaching on, so I'll just be consistent
Mm-hmm.
with bunch
Yeah.
on, yeah.
Yeah, that would, yeah. And again, you can like, you're obviously going to move
I can-
about. And,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Enjoy.
Yeah. So I
Be
mean, I
nice.
can contact the local councils by email. Sorry?
And there's a lot of resources. Again, we'll
Mm.
dive into it a bit more as well, but there's
So
a
that's
lot of
okay?
resources online. Yeah, that's okay. Mhm. Yeah. Who's next? I see one other, but I can't see Ben.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I'm not going to turn my camera on because I don't have power.
Yeah, good.
Candlelight's not great. But just, and sorry if you covered this already, but just like a lot of this stuff I'm used to, and again, you know, different ways of learning and doing. You know, it's like, oh, you know, things must be academically referenced, peer reviewed, da da da. Like a lot of these resources, I'm guessing the way you're talking about them are going to be not that in a academic sense because they hold cultural knowledge that may or may not be intertwined with that. So is that something that like there's no standard on whether they're peer reviewed references and things, or am I getting that wrong?
Mm-hmm. Now that's a really good question. I think Maddie might have put some stuff up on Blackboard about that as well. So definitely look at that. There isn't like a standard in terms of like in my ancient history work, there's a standard of ancient history and how you should reference with that. Just as long as you're abiding to one particular style. So if you're APA, if you're Harvard, but you're right, there might be a lot of resources that depart more from that kind of academic space. As long as you can justify that is a good resource and you are using it because it's a good resource, then that's okay. But I would, as I said, definitely refer to Blackboard, pop those questions on the Blackboard too, because Maddie might have a different understanding. But I think if it's coming across that you're being consistent in your referencing, but you've also shown that it is a good resource and it's just not being academically or peer reviewed because it's from community, then that's okay as well.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Everyone's gone a bit quiet, which is great.
I have a quick question, sorry.
Yes, go for it.
Sorry, you might have already answered this, but I've been in and out with the kids. Madison just said, like if you're looking at a book resource online and recommending it, then use the hardcover referencing style. And I just wanted to know whether we would still need to reference where we actually got that from somewhere. Like we would still need to put, you know, this is where we've accessed this.
Again, the different styles of referencing ask you for different things. Some of them want you to do that, some of them don't. So whatever style you're using, I'm not familiar, I probably should have been before this. Maddie might have put up a particular style that she wants you to use for the assignment. So again, it's whatever style requests that of you. Again, I know, and I mean, I've done uni, you feel like you're getting so bogged down, referencing takes you like 4 days to do and you've written it in 2 days. If you, as now on the other side as a marker, if you can show, it's obviously important as well, but when you look at the rubrics, the weighting is so much more on justification, critical thinking. So if you can focus on that and then you don't put a full stop at the end of your reference in your bibliography, I'm thinking the markers will be probably a bit more lenient if you've been strong in your assessment. There we go. It's APA 7th. So whatever style that asks you for, do that. And again, whatever I say, if it contradicts Maddie, go with Maddie. She's the voice of reason in this all.
So I just meant like above, oh, sorry. I just meant above where you're kind of writing your, you know, critical review of the assessment. You've got, you know, the reference, for example, of the hardcover book, and then in your bibliography, you would still put the online access, or does that?
Again, different styles will ask you for different stuff. So some of them ask you for the digital link, some of them ask you not to. So again, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say you need the digital if you've got the hard copy, like a reference is a reference. But again, maybe just
Jade, I'll
Sorry.
jump in because what I took from the actual workshop was that Maddie said to take it as if you do have the hard copy. Even if you're, say, screenshotting it, it's reference it as if you do have the hard copy.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
that's what I heard. Maybe re-listen to it again, but I'm pretty sure 99 that that's what she referenced it at. Is that reference if you're using a book, even if you don't physically have it, is reference it as if you have the hard copy.
Yeah, if you want to give the markers access to where you got it from in your actual bulk of it, you can be like, hey, here's the resource, blah, blah, blah. Here's where I accessed it. But as your reference, it's the APA 7 hard copy reference.
Because you might use the YouTube read-along version of it. You would give them the link to the read-along even, but the hard copy.
Thanks.
Go back to the workshop.
Thank you, Kirsty, for jumping in. That was one I didn't know. Awesome. Any other questions on that quickly? Easy. We can address these in the next 2 classes as well before it's due. Oh, sorry, Ella, last one. Go for it.
Hi. So I know we have to use resources that are from our local area. Is that correct?
So that's what it's. Oh, sorry. End of slide. It's not. Yeah. So it says. There we go. It should be culturally relevant to the land or the country that you are on. So again, should be, not absolutely required, because that might put up some limitations, but should be relevant to the country that you're on.
Okay, and say if I'm on the Gold Coast, but I found a really good resource which the author is born and resides in Victoria, is not relevant then?
I think if you can show why it's important or show that it's a good resource and tie it in to your own country, like, you know, let's take, for instance, connection to the ocean, and you're trying to explain that in a class. Coffs Harbour potentially has a really good resource on it, but the Gold Coast community might not be that established in that space, so they don't have a really good resource. You could use that resource from Coffs Harbour and explaining that this is also something that would be, you know, relevant within its own parameters to something of where I am in Queensland. The resource just isn't available. But again, I think it's not absolutely imperative that you're on the same country. It's just more beneficial for you in the long run, because in your teaching career you'll be working with these communities, and it's obviously important to know the community around you, so it's beneficial. But there are going to be limitations on what you can and can't access and what's available. So again, I don't think it's like a be all and end all, but if it's a good resource, it's a good resource, so you can use it and justify.
Well, like as a whole, there's always that connection to land, so if that's what I'm focusing on, then it would be a good resource in that regard.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Bara, hello, nice to see you again.
Good. So I know that I still yet to unpack, you know, concerning this assessment. But I can have some problems with the learning area 10. And that is because the examples given here history, cultural studies, English. Perhaps that would be easy. But when you think of applying it to digital technology, I'm still rubbing my mind how I can, you know, have in the indigenous perspective to.
Yeah, it's a good question, because sometimes it does feel like it's more relevant to a, you know, history rather than woodwork. So again, there are different times that it feels more relevant, but again, that's what this assignment's asking you to do. So you'll essentially answer your own question. There's going to be resources that are specific, and again, I think it's next week, we look at the curriculum and you go into the learning areas and what resources can be available. So again, it's up to you to find resources that do make it relevant for you. And again, shaping those resources that might not fit perfectly, excuse me, and explaining why and justifying why they could be used in your class as well. Like I know a very simple one, and when I first taught this class, there was a woodwork student. He's like, how do I do that? And then he was like, oh, I can look at natural materials. I can look at words and techniques. So again, there is always relevance. It's just going to be perhaps a little bit more outside the box rather than fitting squarely into Australian history for year 10 students, you know? Awesome. I think
Thanks
that's
for that.
all good. Beautiful. I've popped that quiz in the chat. I'll do this again. So feel free to take yourself off and do this in your own time. I'll leave the space open for some questions and discussions with me. I will say quickly, it's really important to me that I'm doing the best teaching of your style, the best ways of communicating to ensuring that you're getting the best out of this content and course. So please shoot me an email, which I'll put my name in here as well. Shoot me an email if there's anything different, if there's anything that you kind of want extended discussion on, or if there's any kind of feedback for me and how I can communicate these things differently to making sure you're getting the most out of it. Definitely open to that feedback, but otherwise I'll sit on for a little bit of open discussion until, gosh, we got there, it's a lot of content. Sit on for some open discussion, and then yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening and do that quiz in your own time. But otherwise, if you don't have any questions, I'll see you next week. If you do, hang on and we can have a chat. Serena.
Hi, Jade. Just a quick question. I think I tried to send you a text privately. Maybe while you're talking, it's hard to look
Yeah.
at the screen. So I started to identify some resources that I currently use in the place where I work.
Yeah.
And we have a center at 0 to 5, so I work in the younger group, but the resources can be extended in the lower primary school. But it's an organization that came as an incursion, and we have been embedding this practice, and they are too relevant for Victoria and Melbourne, so Waiapa and the Curie Heritage Trust. But the other one is more general, but we use it in the service. It's the SNAKE organization.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
can
I know.
do, yeah. So I'm wondering, because it's relevant to the place where I work, but that particular one is Australia wide.
No, I think that's completely okay. And I know we work with Snake. They're very well regarded. They do incredible work. So I think, yeah, you know, your resource is going to be good. Again, if you can justify why you're using that, I think that's completely okay. And if you already have experience or know of it, relevant to where you are at the moment, that's okay.
Thank you.
No, all good.
And the other question is about all the tutorial. So there are four or five for the first week, but all of you are gonna touch the same module, but just
Yeah,
in
so
different days. So if you, for example, tonight I done the workshop with you, tomorrow with another assessor would be similar topic. Is correct?
yeah. Yeah, so we all use the same slides. Obviously,
Yeah.
the discussion will be a bit different, but all of the slides are the same. It's just because there's like 200 students enrolled, I think. We've just got to give so many options that people can
Opportunity in
attend,
different
but
times.
it's the same content.
Okay, so for example, if you for a Monday I'm not able to attend, I can catch up and do the same
Yes.
session during the day on a Wednesday, for the 2
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, same
Okay.
session.
And then there will
Yeah.
be the recording for all of this session. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
you're all
Thank
good.
you.
Won't miss anything.
Thank you. All right. See you next time.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. You're welcome to just go for it. Take yourselves off of mute. No need to raise your hand.
Hi,
Go
Jade.
for it.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Fubara. We'll go Farah first. Sorry.
Sorry about that. So, my question is basically about the fact that I am not in Australia at the moment. I relocated last year mid-degree. So, I asked medicine, and she did say that I can just like, for my context where I was located before, where I'm from Sydney, so I can just take resources that are local to my country. But because I'm not physically there, I cannot go into the council, go into the library, and those kinds of things. For me mainly, it's going to be online, like resources. I did hear the discussion about the book and everything, that you still, if it's a book, I can still reference it as a book that I actually have. But would I be able to help out with what other places I can look for resources, just because I am limited?
Yeah, definitely. So that's what we'll go into in the next two tutorials and workshop as well, is heaps of resources where you can find them. Australian curriculum is a great place. If you start Googling, you'll realize how much information is out there, how much kind of you can rely on resources. So definitely I just have a play around and a bit of a Google, but the Australian curriculum, school websites, a lot of schools will have what they're using as well, and resources. But yeah, you'll be able to access all of it
So those
online.
kind of things are will be available, like
Yeah, you'll be
okay, great. I'll have a look. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Anyone else questions? Otherwise we might end it there. Thank you.
A quick one, please. So you have a number of links on the chat. Which of them pertains to the quiz? Can you easily point
The
it out?
links?
Yeah,
so
the one that pertains to the quiz. You talked about the quiz that you've also posted. Right.
there you go. I've just put it in there again. All the slides will be available. They might be available after the last shoot, so maybe Wednesday. All the slides are available, and then you can access all the links and everything on Blackboard too. So if you miss it in the call, you won't miss it because they'll go up online.
Okay.
Jade, when one of them was referring to a website, would you suggest focusing in on an aspect of our website? So I think was whatever it was, Snake. Clearly that has a lot of things in it. Would you suggest trying to focus in on one aspect if you were to choose a website?
Yeah, definitely. So what, let's say you've got an hour with those students, what would you be doing in that hour? Like, would it just be, flying around the website, or would it be particularly looking at, if it's that Massacre website, what are you looking at in it? What are you discussing in it? So again, be as specific as you can. But again, make sure that you can justify why it's a good website or why it's a good resource.
So you could then say that, okay, we're focusing in on this, evaluating the website holistically, you could then stem onto other aspects of whatever it is.
Yeah.
So hone in on one aspect of it, but say the resource itself is beneficial because it can be extended, blah, blah, blah.
In this way. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool.
Good question.
Thanks.
Good question. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, 8:01. Might go and have some dinner. Thank you so much. Enjoy Europe, Helen, envious, and see you all next week.
Thank you. I'll see you from Greece on Monday.
Half.
Yeah.